Yo, what's good? Welcome back, gents. Let me just pop something up real quick. I was gonna review a book today. So the book I'm gonna review today is super Japanese coded. Re like once I explain it, you'll probably get it. But anyways, it's a book translated by Miss Mint Haven. They're pretty good so far. A lot of yaoi. That's BL. Boys love if you aren't aware. But they have some Yuri here too. They're pretty good translation series. Book I've been reading like the past month. Been this series called last month, last 2 weeks actually, not whole month. Is reincarnated as a villainous duke. 37, he's 37 years old, who gets condemned by his daughter. This series is hella interesting in a super weird Japanese way, if that makes sense. First of all, when I say in the Japanese way, I pretty much mean this as like I can imagine a Japanese salaryman reading this and finding it very enjoyable because it has incest, um, older man. He's 37. They call him young in the series, which I guess like 37 isn't old, but almost 40, pushing 40. But let me see. Incest, minors. Saying this out loud is so crazy, by the way. He's like a villainous dude. He's in a game. He reincarnated in the game world. Really crazy. And yeah, this series is so interesting. I had to talk about this series. I'll probably put up like a little picture of like the front page of the novel or the front cover, I guess. It's pretty actually good art, I won't lie. And I'll put like the Japanese title and stuff. I don't know if people are gonna care about that. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna say it how it is. The complete title right now. Reincarnated as a villainous duke to be condemned by my daughter, right? Reincarnated as a villainous duke to be condemned by my daughter. Even though I stopped acting like a villain, my daughter is becoming the ice princess. So yeah. So this is a Japanese light novel. Super Japanese coded. I'm gonna read the synopsis real quick. Just to give you guys an idea real quick. What fate awaits the villainous duke who, fearing condemnation, works to raise the affection of the heroines, including his daughter? Alright, so one day a man realizes he's been reincarnated as a villainous duke, 37 years old, in a certain game. Things continue as they are. He will follow the villain route, eventually be condemned by the main heroine, who is none other than his daughter. Using his knowledge of the game, the man begins taking action to avoid his own condemnation. However, for some reason, his daughter repeatedly lets glimpses of her Ice Lady sideshow whenever the opportunity arises. In this world where the game scenario has been unstable from the beginning, can the man survive as a duke? And can he save the world in place of the protagonist who is destined for ruin? Thus begins days of battle for survival and affection raising for the villainous duke, 37 years old. Alright, so I've been reading this on missminthaven.com. These guys have been pretty good with the translations. Their site's really nice too. Might probably throw up a screenshot. I get a chance. And so far they have around 81 chapters of free, I think. Let me take a quick peek. Around 81 chapters. Technically it's split up into volumes. So this is like the 6th volume. They do have premium chapters. Let me take a quick peek. Premium chapter. Go to wait, let me see that. 17. Holy crap. That is a lot more than I thought. Yeah, it goes in deep. Like 192 chapters, like premium. But I am not buying premium. So I just wanted to talk about this series. It's pretty interesting. So pretty much this dude wakes up in the pretty much the game. I forgot what the game's called specifically, but he just wakes up in the game world. He played this when he was in Japan. He was a salaryman. He like died from overworking like every other salaryman. You know, the classic cliche. He woke up in the Duke's body. And pretty much the original plot, the Duke was planning to like take over the kingdom, become the next king. But, you know, obviously he comes in, he doesn't really want to do that. And honestly, this series isn't bad, but it's super weird. Like it's interesting. Like, it had me kind of invested, but as the daughter kept getting unhinged, it got worse, if that makes sense. So at first, like when he changes up his attitude to his daughter, like it's not too bad. Like she like starts loving her father more. So I'm like, okay, that's chill, that's chill. But then like where I ended the series, because I read pretty much all 81 chapters, she like I don't even know how to say this, but she was talking about how her dad would take over the kingdom and become the next king so that he could marry her. And then at the start of the series, he was talking about how he wants his daughter to have a hair, right? Because they're from a noble family, so this part makes sense. Usually, you want like a male hair. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hair. Yeah, pretty much like a male to take over the family, right? To lead the. I forget what family they're called. I think it's called Blue Art or something. Stuart Blue Art. His name was Blue Art, I think. Or something about blue. So then, son to take over the family. So then she said like my father wants to marry me so I can make a hair with him, which is so crazy, by the way. Straight incest. The only saving grace for this series is that the father, or the Japanese dude who's been reincarnated, doesn't have the same like feelings or thoughts to his daughter, but like he is kind of instigating it. Like in my opinion, he should have just killed that from the start. But if he did, this wouldn't be a Japanese light novel. So yeah, that makes sense. But and obviously, this is his blood daughter, 100%. He literally had a wife before, she passed away. His wife gave birth to this girl. So there's no, like, stepdaughter. This is just straight incest. But the Duke, he's a Dutch Japanese protagonist. Like, you make it even better, I guess. So he pretty much the whole, like, thing going on is he's, like, super dense and every girl's just into him, I guess. I don't really blame them because they really make all the rest of the dudes in this series like just terrible people. There's like two other actual like male like side characters, which is like one of the other dukes. His name was like Duke Anotava, whatever. He's just like 68 or something. He's like old as hell, and he just supports the prince. Pretty much anytime they reincarnate into a game world, the original protagonist always either has to be a scumbag, like a villain. It's always something like that. So this guy is just the main protagonist, the OG. He's just a complete villain. Just wants to destroy the world and just wants to screw all the girls, I guess. Maybe I find it more interesting if they made like the protagonist like more aligned with his original like persona, and like the this Duke and the OG protagonist, they could work together. I find those more interesting than just the original protagonist just being completely written out of the story, because he's pretty much completely written out of the story. Everyone in the story from like where I was at, chapter 81, everyone was just completely against him. So it's just like no shot he's coming back. Everyone doesn't want him to become the next king. He also like assassinated his family and stuff to become the king, so they just made him a complete antagonist, which is crazy, but not the craziest thing on this series, to be honest. It's like kind of lukewarm compared to everything else. And there's just like so many kind of side plots going on. Yeah, this series is it gives off, how should I say it, like a Japanese fulfillment story, I guess. That makes sense. It kind of feels like it's just the personal kink of incest. The story is intriguing enough that I actually kept on reading it, because it doesn't fully give in to the incest, but it's like edging the incest, which is crazy to say, by the way. But it's really not the worst series I read. There's a couple other minor things, like there's like some other side characters, like there's another Duke, but she's a chick, so pretty much everyone in the series is a chick except for the Duke and the prince and the other Duke, Duke Genova or whatever. They're like just scummy dudes though. Everyone else is just chicks. Like, every person in this story is just straight chicks, which I guess that's fine. I don't really care too much. Pretty much a harem coded story. Everyone's just from this point, the story, everyone's just in love with them, or they're blushing, all that kind of stuff. I do appreciate the protagonist to a certain extent, though. He's more of like a logical guy, honestly, and he's not the type to think too deeply with his bottom half. So I really get tired of the stories. Protagonist is just always thinking about chicks, which that's fine. Like it's just dude coded, but They just do it way too much. But this guy, he's like, he gets the job done first. That's what I can appreciate about him. And he is like super dense, so he gives off signals, right, to the chicks. But he never really sees it through. So like, I can't really blame him, like, for actually like pursuing the chicks or whatever, or being like lust coded or whatever. It's actually pretty decent, I'd say. This series, I would give it a like out of 10. I would say like a 6. Like, it's not the best series I've ever read. It's nothing new, but it's like intriguing enough that I wasted a couple hours on it. There's also like some game related elements with like leveling up, like cheats. What else do they have? Yeah, just like game elements, leveling up, cheats, stats. He like at the start of the series, he like found one of the cheats, go kind of Godspeed, took it up, and it made him pretty much overpowered. There's like no threat to him so far, at least. Like, he one shots almost everything, which I think it's fine, honestly. It kind of makes it a little intriguing. He has like a little title. He fights like every demon. One hit, one kill, and he says some flashy names. And the combat system is actually what I find most intriguing about this like novel. Because this novel, the combat system, I felt like it was gonna be kind of one-dimensional. Because like with RPGs, because this original game series was based off like an RPG. It has the leveling up, the stats, all that good stuff. I was expecting it to just have RPG elements, but it has a little bit of as I say it, kind of reminds me like a little bit of Bleach. You know how they have like flash step and stuff, and they have like this technique and that technique, Bankai, Shikai. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Like, they have their own little techniques, like sword techniques. They have like a flash step in this series, but it's a little different. I actually find the combat system way more interesting than like the normal story. Like when they go into the dungeons and they fight like the demons and stuff. Those parts I find really intriguing. I think the author wrote them quite good. And the protagonist himself is, like I said before, he's not too lust coded. He's not too like crazy. He's more of a logical guy. I find him a little bit interesting. One thing I do find a little off-putting is that the wife is scarcely mentioned. Because I feel like she should be mentioned a bit more. Because in the original series, or like the original game before he was reincarnated, right? It was constantly stated how the Duke was like madly in love with his wife. He even like did some like experiments to try to bring her back to life or reanimate her, something like that. So then the Duke was so obsessed with his wife, but when this dude reincarnated into his body, he just doesn't care at all. Now, originally you would think like, oh, so he reincarnated, so he's a completely different person. But he remembers all the memories from before he reincarnated. So for all the memories from him to 37 years old, he still has all the memories. Like, he's still the Duke, but he just remembered his past life's memories. So that's different if he was like reincarnated into the body at 37. He didn't remember his past at all, or didn't remember anything from this point. And like at that point, that would make sense. But he was just madly in love with his wife, willing to, do legal experiments, try to reanimate her, try to take over the kingdom. Like, there were so many things here that was said that he would do this for a wife. But then when this guy just wakes up and remembers all his old memories, like, it's the past. Just leave it be. Like, what? Why didn't you say that before then? I guess it's whatever. Like, the wife is mentioned like twice in the series, at least chapter 81. I feel like she should be mentioned just a little bit more, like once a while, maybe like 5 times. I would have been like kind of okay with that. 4 times, but only twice. And the 2 times she's mentioned is like one sentence. So that's a bit off-putting in my opinion. There's like a couple other minor things about the series I had to say, but honestly, it's pretty good. In my opinion, I feel like this series would be saved if at the end he like married like the Saintess or like the other Duke. Like, there's another Duke who's a chick. She like is an information specialist, a fire mage, and I forget what her name is specifically, but she was actually a pretty interesting character. She was always fighting with the main antagonist. I mean, not the main antagonist, with the MC at the original of the game. But they actually are on good terms now because he helped his sister and stuff, all that good stuff, and they kind of made amends. I feel like it'd be more interesting if he married her or kind of relationship with her and maybe the Saintess. I feel like that would kind of save the series instead of, getting with his daughter. When I mentioned earlier why Japanese would like this for minors is because almost every female lead in this series is like under 15. Like, the only two that aren't like 15, I think, so far are like kind of like the minor side characters who aren't mentioned. Maybe like the alchemists and stuff. and the Duke that I just mentioned, like the mage chick, the female Duke, pretty much, and the Saintess. So the Saintess is like 20 something, Duke is like 20 something, and then pretty much these are the only people I would consider eligible. Everyone else is under 15, pretty much. Under 20, but they're all mostly under 15. His daughter's 14. The one of the other like main heroines is the granddaughter of Duke Nova or whatever, the one who's like pretty much an evil male lead or male side character. His daughter's 14, and then the younger sister of the female Duke, she's like 14. They're all pretty much 14. All these three main heroines, and they're all kind of like main heroines for the MC, which is a bit off-putting. And he has like other like little girls in his team, and the whole like what do you call it, like joke, ongoing joke throughout the series is that he likes little girls. Like, is that not saying something? That is so crazy, man. But this series is, yeah, like I said, it's not the worst I've read. It's an interesting one. I would recommend it to waste some time. Like I said, only 81 chapters are free, so this will probably take maybe 1 to 2 days, depending how fast you read. Maybe a week if you read it slowly. If you want to get the premium, I feel like you should. But honestly, at chapter 81, it started really slowing down. There's also like some spirits and stuff, but that's just kind of a side thing. But yeah, 81 chapters should be like enough to read for, just to get through it, waste some time. Like I said, around after like the last chapter, like volume 8. Let me see, what's the last chapter for the last volume? Chapter 6, volume 6. I think a little bit earlier than that. But around here, it really starts slowing down. It kind of started preparing to go into the southern forest. But honestly, I ship the MC with the Saintess. She's lucky my favorite character so far. Kind of seems like the most normal. Everyone else is a little slightly unhinged, and they're all minors. Like, I get it's a light novel, but he's 37. The thing that really saves the series is that he's just not aware that all the little girls are into him. Like, he thinks they're just playing around. So if he knew and just let it slide, I would have probably dropped this series. I'm not always like the guy like who's always like, oh, she's a minor, blah 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 blah. Like, it's usually a night novel, it's a manga, it's whatever, just read it with a grain of salt. But this is just such a big gap that it's really weird. And it's like constantly mentioned throughout the series. Like, they're always talking about how he's into little girls. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said at the start of this, it seems super Japanese coded. Because it just seems like something a salaryman in Japan would eat up. No offense to the Japanese, it's just that it kind of seems like what they like. I'll take it the wrong way. Yeah, like I said earlier, I give this series like a 6 out of 10, maybe 5, but dependent. I'm only like 8 chapters in, so I can't really give a full review for the series, but so far from what I've read, it's like decent. It's a good time waster. I don't hate it. And if you want to check out MissMintHaven.com, they're pretty good at translating. They have a lot of yaoi, a little bit of yuri. A lot of yaoi, actually. I just looked through their little catalog. Holy crap. Yeah, okay. A lot of yaoi, a little bit of yuri, a little bit of smut. It ain't the worst thing I've seen so far. But anyways, that's pretty much it for my review. Appreciate. Thank you for stopping by.